There are two kinds of people in this world. The people who fail to do what they know they should, and those who keep doing things they know they shouldn't. Guess what? You're both. Hi, I'm your host, life and business coach, Marcy Barker, aka your loving kick in the pants. In this podcast, I'll teach you the 6 steps of my accountability code that will help you wake up with clarity and show up with aligned action steps that make follow through easy and peaceful. All right, let's jump in.
Good morning, my beautiful people. I am just so excited to talk to you again today to record a podcast. I am at my local library, and I would have to say that libraries are so high up on my list of things I'm grateful for. And as I sit here, I'm like, I pay my taxes and I get to sit in my own podcast studio. Not really, but I really do love the library just because it's been here in my times of need. You know, when my printer's broken, I can print stuff. When my kids needed activities to do. And one time I actually got in trouble for taking a nap at the library. And my husband was like, "How did you fall asleep at the library?" And I said, "I laid down and I took a nap." And they woke me up and they said, "You're not allowed to sleep at the library." And where I grew up, if you were allowed to sleep in a library, you'd find a lot of people there because my library really attracted some people who needed help. So anyway, I'm here to record a podcast about, of course, accountability. That's just my jam. It is the thing you're here for because you want a loving kick in the pants. And I really am on a high since coming home from my retreat because man, the transformations that happened in such a short period of time has been so beautiful. And having a community, having people there to support you, to brainstorm with, to mastermind with, is just so beautiful. And a retreat is just much different than your home environment because everything is so different. You have a clear slate to be who you want to be, to show up how you want to show up, and everybody's meals are taken care of. You know, you don't have to make dinner. You don't have to do dishes. You get to just have girl time all day long, and it is really awesome. I'm actually not even done with my retreat season. I have my mother-daughter retreat coming up in a couple of weeks, which I'm really excited about because my daughters take the reins on that one. So needless to say, it takes a long time to plan. It takes a long time to execute because I let my girls do the whole thing. So they design the logo, they pick out the sweatshirts, they do the activities, they make the agenda, they do the menu, they shop for the food, everything. It is just a really fun way for me to get my girls involved in my business. And if you haven't heard, I do have podcasts with each of my girls, and you can find those in the lineup in the past episodes. But moving forward after the retreat, we're going to have to figure out some different projects so I can keep them busy. But the purpose of today's podcast, I want to just kind of tell you, I am on a high for my retreat, but since then I've also had some pretty low lows as well. And that's the name of the game with accountability or personal development in general, is that you get really excited to do something really great and you're motivated and you're planned out, and resistance comes. And this is one of the things I teach every client at my retreat is you're going to go home and unfortunately something crappy is going to happen. And it's not what you want to hear. And I remember when I was being coached by Marshall Goldsmith. If you don't know him, he's the highest paid executive coach in the world. And I had an opportunity to work with him. And we sat down on a first Zoom call. And Marshall's probably like 85, 90 years old. So he's just this really elderly guy with lots of super good advice, but also very short and to the point. And we were getting started on one of our first coaching calls, and he was like, "You're going to have a crisis in the next 6 months." And I was like, "Wow, you're really motivating." Obviously, I didn't say that to him, but I thought, why would you tell me that? I know I'm already in over my head and I get to work with you and I want to make this the best as possible. And now you're telling me something is going to happen in my life where it's going to take me down. It's going to drag me down. And sure enough, he was right, unfortunately. And he just said, I've coached with hundreds of people over the years, and that's just how life works. You're going to do something that's worthy of your attention, and you're going to run into a crisis, and it's going to challenge you to either step up or work through it or take a break or figure it out. And the crisis that I ran into was one that, I mean, I'm not special or unique, but it was something I could have never, ever perceived happening to me and my family. And if you guys don't know, I spent 5 weeks in Guatemala writing my book, and the crisis happened while I was across the world. I could not get home. I actually tried to tell my husband, I said, I can't believe this happened. I'm coming home. I'm getting a flight. I was in day 10 of 35. And I said, I'm coming home. And he's like, no, you're not. He's like, I got it taken care of. The people we're dealing with are just not being great, but it's going to be fine. You go and finish your book and we're going to be great. And I was like, okay, I will try to trust you. But I'm also like, how am I supposed to write a book when I'm literally depressed? And it was very hard for me to get into the right frame of mind to write my book. And luckily I pulled it out. If you guys haven't read my book yet, I highly recommend you go and you read it, even for the sheer fact of knowing it was really hard for me to get those stories out because of what was going on in my personal life.
Hey listeners, the message of waking up and showing up is yours for the taking. In fact, it's free. I've recorded my entire audiobook and I'd love for you to consume it between episodes. Head to marcybarker.com to get instant access to the accountability code Wake Up and Show Up. All right, let's jump back in.
So in the grand scheme of accountability, I want you to just think about your past for a minute. Think about the times in your life where you have been so motivated to make something happen. You've taken a leap of faith, or you've jumped, you've invested in yourself, and then shortly after, something bad happens, or a massive amount of resistance, or something that you just couldn't even perceive. Now, if you're thinking back and you're like, yeah, I know exactly what that thing was. Or maybe you're like, no, I've never really experienced that. I want you to recognize that perceiving these things or planning for these things can be a very vital part to your growth and your mindset while going through these things. So I told my clients, I said, hey, you guys are going to go home from this retreat and there's going to be an integration process. You have learned a lot mentally and spiritually and emotionally, but not really physically. It takes a while for your body to catch up to the things that have been implanted in your brain and your heart. And I forced them all to go on a walk the morning before checkout or the morning of checkout and let them know that big things are coming, not just hard things, but big leaps of progress and growth are coming because of what they've agreed to do, which is bet on themselves and to be accountable to their goals. And I don't know why I didn't believe, or I didn't even consider that was going to happen to me too. I'm like, here I am, the coach telling everybody what to do. And I just go home and I'm like, okay, business as usual. And then no, within a week, I received some pretty heavy news that made me question what I was going to do with my future. The same way I had felt years ago in Guatemala, I was like, great, I guess I will just start over. I guess that I won't be following through with that massive plan because I had no idea this thing was going to happen. And experiencing that recently, I was so glad that one, I had been there before, and two, somebody prepped me and let me know resistance was going to come. So with that bad news, I had to contact quite a few people and, kind of figure out a game plan of what I was going to do with this information. And I hate to be that person that's vague booking, but it really is just not a time to share yet. So I want to focus on the emotions that come with getting hit with heavy resistance and how there is 100% a way to work through those things, because we are strong people. These things don't make us die. They just really tear us down and help us recognize how we want to move forward in life. So I spent an entire day doing something different than I had planned because this became very urgent and it needed all of my attention. And in the morning, when I got the news, I was pretty torn apart. Okay, I guess I'll just quit. I guess I'll just think of something different. I guess I can just, I don't know, I'll just go figure something else out and I'll go be successful with something new. And I gave myself time to process. I gave myself time to integrate. And I actually checked in with my mastermind because those are my people. Those are the people I can count on, because in the journey of accountability, you've got to have those resources and those friends that you can count on. And I'm actually going to pull up the message that I wrote to them just so I can adequately explain to you the way that I was feeling. I said, I was really struggling today as I got hit with some bad news. It consumed my whole day and will require me to make some really important decisions in the near future. It's rare for me to want to give up, but I considered it again today for a hot minute. Then I put on my big girl panties. I prayed. I stepped away. I worked out. I talked with a friend. I nourished my body. I hugged my kids. I worked, ate out, and watched 2 movies. You are so not invited to my bat mitzvah and Miss Congeniality. I'm surprised to say that today overall was good. Getting crappy news and talking to multiple lawyers in one day was not what I planned for, nor was it something I was going to let pull me into a depression. Aubrey just got to Florida to help with the hurricane cleanup, and I'm on my own till Sunday. My house is the messiest it's ever been, and I came home to a mess this week, and that's okay. As I was shutting tabs for the night, I had to let you all know that no matter what you are going through, you have power. You get to choose. You get to act. It's not always easy, and it's not always going to be fixed instantly, but you have power. I am blessed to have these habits in place for when times get hard, but I am also extremely blessed to have been with such a great group of women at my retreat less than a week ago, and everyone in this mastermind for the last 9 months. I hope you know that you investing in yourself was and is powerful. I think I'm due for a good lonely cry, and I want to thank you all for having my back and validating the work I do. With the big choices I'm going to have to make, I feel a lot of peace in knowing there is always something that no one can take away from me. That's who I am, who I'm working to become, and the access I have with Heavenly Father and His power too. I hope that if you are ever feeling like giving up, that you take a step back, rely on the abilities you have been developing and practicing, and lean into your spirit hard. It will not lead you astray, but sometimes we've got to slow down our mind and body to really hear it. Love you all. I had a great night. Can't wait to dive into personal calls on Monday. Yay for finishing out Q3 with strength, friendship, and vulnerability. And sharing that was nice for me, but also I hope that sharing that in the podcast and with my clients, if you're going through something that you really feel is like pulling you back or pulling you down or pulling you back into who you used to be, not necessarily who you want to be, that you recognize you do have power. You do have the ability to say, I'm going to choose what I want for my life. I'm going to go out and get what I want. And it's possible. After I posted that, and I was talking to some clients, I was thinking, how do I spread my wings and fly while also staying under the radar? And you know what, guys? It's just not possible. It is absolutely not possible. And I just want to remind you that anything big you do is going to come with new challenges, new hardships, new problems. And that's the beauty of life, is we get to continually push ourselves to be accountable to what really matters. And it's worth the fight. It is absolutely worth the fight and worth the work. So I want you to know, if you are going through something hard, just keep going and tap into those resources you have available. And if you're like, I don't have anybody, you guys, you can literally book a free call with me and we can chat in person. Well, over Zoom. You know what I mean? Like real time. It doesn't have to be you listening to me just talk at you, but we can go through what you're dealing with, and I can help you apply the accountability code in a way that makes your next step very peaceful. So anyway, there is always going to be an integration process for anything big that you do. Give yourself time and space and patience.
Hey friends, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of Your Loving Kick in the Pants. If you got any value out of this episode, I would love for you to drop me a review or share with a friend what you learned. All right, I'll see you next Wednesday for Your Loving Kick in the Pants.